Welcome all. Thank you for joining TÜVSÜD's complimentary webinar titled Food Safety Management Systems in the Americas, SQF, FSSC, BRC, Key Updates to Ensure Operational Excellence. Today's session will be presented by Candace Carmichael, Food and Feed Program Manager at TÜVSÜD America, and Pravina Munukuru, Food Safety Consultant and SQF Auditor, Sentinus, and FSQ Director at Aegis Foods. Before we begin the presentation today, we have a few housekeeping rules. If you or someone you know is having connection issues, please connect through LAN instead of Wi-Fi, if available, for better connectivity. Also, please view this webinar through the recommended browsers of Chrome, Edge, or Firefox if available. All participants are muted today to avoid any background noise during the webinar. For our questions and answers portion of today's session, please submit your questions online via the Q&A tab on your screen. And we have a short survey to gather your feedback regarding today's session. Please stay on for a few minutes after the event to answer these short survey questions. We truly appreciate your comments and feedback. Today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be available if you missed any portion of today's session. Now let me introduce TÜVSÜD as well as our session today. Go to the next slide. So TÜVSÜD is world-renowned for providing international testing, assessment, training, and certification services. For over 160 years, with offices in over 1,000 locations in 50 countries and represented by approximately 30,000 employees. As a global leader in management system certification, validation, and verification audits, TÜVSÜD's extensive industry experience and expertise elevate the management systems of our clients through our unique approach towards audit. TÜVSÜD assists companies of all sizes with a tailored audit approach specific to your company size and industry. We can support you with various ISO-based management system standards, sustainability, cybersecurity, as well as customized audit solutions, and of course, assisting your company with food safety management systems in the Americas, Safe Quality Food, British Retail Consortium, BRC, and Food Safety System Certification, FSSC. If you are looking for a trusted, globally recognized provider that is responsive to assist with your company's transformation and certification needs, TÜVSÜD is your partner. And now a little bit more about our session today. So during today's session, you will learn more about three of the most widely recognized food safety certification schemes: the Food Safety System Certification, FSSC 22000, Safe Quality Food, SQF, and the British Retail Consortium Global Standard for Food Safety. Attendees will learn practical strategies for implementation, common audit findings and how to address them, and best practices for maintaining certification over time. We will discuss the similarities and differences between SQF, FSSC 22000, and BRC, helping organizations determine which standard best aligns with their operational needs, customer requirements, and business objectives. So again, welcome all, and thank you so much for joining today's session. And now I'd like to turn it over to our featured speakers, Candace and Pravina. Thank you for today's session, and welcome.
Thank you, Susan, for that great introduction. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Candace Carmichael. I am the Feed and Food Program Manager with TÜVSÜD of Americas, and I'm joined by my co-presenter, Pravina Munukuru, from Sentinus and Aegis Foods. What we'll be focusing on today is the three most popular standards in the US and the Americas. We have SQF, FSSC 22000, and BRC GS Food Safety. We want to talk about specifically, what's going on in 2025, what went on this year, and also going into 2026, what we're forecasting when we're doing these audits, and how these changes will impact audit readiness and day-to-day operations when it comes to food safety and quality. Our goal is to keep this very practical. We're going to keep it very realistic as auditors, and actually what we're seeing in audits across the Americas when it comes to food safety and quality. So our objectives for today, Let me start with what summarized 2025, going into 2026 updates for FSSC version 6, which came out last spring, BRCGS Food Issue 9, and SQF Issue 9. Second, we'll highlight any major nonconformity trends that are reoccurring issues that we're seeing across all the 3 standards. And then third, we'll identify any practical actions you can take to strengthen food safety culture, which is a very hot topic across the 3 standards and pretty new. Allergen management, which is the #1 cause of food recalls and withdrawals in the Americas, and hygienic design, purchasing new equipment, data collection, trending, food defense and food fraud controls, environmental monitoring, which is a very hot topic and a critical importance in your food safety management systems. And then finally, we'll talk about how to use those trends to sharpen, internal audits, management reviews, and how they drive real improvement. We just don't want to tick on the box. We actually want to drive for improvement, driving for effectiveness, and actually improving our food safety management systems. Also, we'll talk about how, FSSC version 6 is complete now. So audits are now heavily focused on effectiveness, driving for improvement, not just whether the document exists. Definitely, if the document exists, that's fine. But are you actually implementing what your document says? I've come across many sites where they actually have all the documents in place, all the records, but there's a lot of gaps missing in their documents as far as what I'm seeing out in the plan. So that's what we're really looking for as auditors. Labeling and allergen management, verification and validation of those controls, food defense and food fraud programs. We have in FSSC and BRC audits I did this year, there were a lot of strong vulnerability assessments, but we didn't have any mitigation plans. I came across that many times, and that's an easy for a lead auditor to give as a nonconformity. So definitely want to make sure we have some strong controls in place for our vulnerabilities. Regulators and CBs expect to see, food safety and quality culture in the real plans. I've come across many sites, they'll have a food safety culture plan, but are they actually testing it? Are they measuring it? Are they driving for improvement? Do they have questionnaires? Are they interviewing with their employees? Are they interactive with their employees? So again, that goes back to senior management commitment, your site and your employees, not just a statement on the wall. So for FSSC version 6, we have some key updates. 2025 this year, going into 2026. What I noticed, a lot of sites are still going under 5.1. Version 6 did come out last spring of 2024. So auditors are really making sure you're meeting the version 6 expectations, that we're practicing those expectations. Are we doing trends? Version 6 is really big on training for pest control, corrective actions. Are we training for customer complaints? Do we have a strong root cause analysis? Are we striving for improvement? Do we have strong CAPA effectiveness? Management follow-through during your senior management meetings? Are we falling back to what we saw in the previous management review? I've seen this so many times in FSSC audits. They're actually doing the management reviews with all the senior managers involved, but there's no evidence to prove that they're correcting what they're seeing. Food defense and food fraud must be based on structured risk assessments. And again, going back to the last slide, strong mitigation actions and reviews. Again, I'm seeing this very commonly in FSSC and across all the 3 standards. They're not reviewing their mitigation plans, their food defense, their food fraud. So that's extremely important to have a strong food defense program. Again, going back to culture, food safety culture, show us the plan, show us your metrics, and show us what actually has improved over the last 12 months. You want to review your food safety plan every year or once a month. You want to engage with your employees. Going into BRC, issue 9. That came out in the fall of August of, I believe, 2022. There's been several audit cycles completed in 2025. Going into 2026, we'll have a lot more. There's a lot more sites getting into BRC. Some of your high-risk facilities when it comes to high care, high hygiene, high risk versus low risk. Again, going back to stronger emphasis on senior management commitment. Food safety culture evidence, again, strong importance across all the 3 standards. Tighter expectations for hygiene. Are they washing their hands before they go into the facility? Doing BRC audits. I don't see that very often, but I have seen it across all the 3 standards, and I have seen it in BRC. So definitely before you go into the operations, you want to train your employees. They need to wash their hands, or if they pick something off the floor, are they changing their gloves and washing their hands? I came across a situation this year. I was observing the floor and I was interviewing the operator. He might have gotten nervous. I mean, it happens when you have auditors there interviewing the employees. He picked something off the floor and he didn't change his gloves. He didn't go wash his hands. He just kept working. So I had to give a nonconformity for that. So definitely it goes back to hygiene, GMPs. BRC does require foreign body controls. Do we have an X-ray, or do we have a metal detector? Do we have a screen, a magnet? What are we doing to control any foreign bodies getting into our product? Again, that's one of the highest reasons for recalls is metal contamination, plastic, wood, anything foreign body, especially in the high care and high risk areas where you have ready to cook foods, allergen and labor control, again, a big one. There's been situations during a changeover where the QA folks didn't catch the wrong label on the wrong packaging during changeover. And I had to give a nonconformity for that. Because if the whole pallet and the whole batch was already packaged, then we would have had to get a recall if it got distributed to the distributor. So again, that's extremely important that we have some strong label controls in place and that QA is verifying that it's been completed. Sites must show robust checks for artwork approval. Again, going back to labels to the finished product. You do see these same patterns in all the 3 standards, culture, allergens, hygiene, verification of effectiveness. These are all key things to have a strong food safety management system. And in BRC, SQF, FSSC, again, we're seeing all these trends happening this year, and going forward, we'll probably see more next year. All right, so let's get the audience involved here. Let's make this fun. Which method do you rely on most to verify the effectiveness of corrective actions? Is it A, internal audits and focused inspections? Is it B, an analysis of NCs, complaints, and incidents? Is it C, verification validation activities, environmental monitoring, and product testing? Or is it D, management review and KPI scorecards? And we would love to see your responses. It'll show up here. And we'll give it 1 minute here. We got 1 submission. Okay. Okay, we have 3 people who submitted it. Okay. 4 people. Good, good. We like to get 3 more people. 4 out of 7. I'll give it 10 more seconds. All right, 5 people. All right. All right, so 42% said internal audits and focus inspections. And then 14% said trend analysis of NC's complaints and incidents. And then verification validation activities, 42%. All right, good. And then management review and KPI scorecards, 0%. All right, perfect. So the answer is C, verification and validation activities. So good job on the folks who picked that one. It is often the strongest because it directly tests whether the risk has been reduced. But in practice, we want to see a combination of these methods. So good job on that. All right, so for BRC, so some of the nonconformity trends we saw 2025 going into 2026, stepping back, we're seeing more focus on reoccurring nonconformities, especially across surveillance and recertification audits. We see major and critical NCs are very often tied to weak internal audits. So internal audits, I've seen this quite a bit in BRC and all the 3 standards. They're not following up on what they've seen in their internal audits. We want to make sure we're auditing independent of each other. So maintenance can audit against QA. QA can audit against maintenance. Sanitation can audit against, GMPs. So that makes it more objective instead of being subjective. So definitely want to make sure that we have a strong internal audit program in place. Poor follow-up from management review is another big thing. So if we're not following up from our issues from the previous management review, then those issues are going to be there standing and not fully addressed. So definitely want to make sure that we're taking our senior management programs strongly. Allergen, label control, and changeover continue to be high impact problems. Going back to the previous slides, definitely want to make sure that we are, during changeover, we have the right protocol in place. Like I said earlier, there was a label going into the new product, the old label going into the new product. And good thing I caught that, because then we would have pallets full of mislabeling products. Environmental monitoring, hygienic design findings are increasing, particularly in high care zones where listeria and foreign body risk are higher. And just think about your last audit. Did any of these situations show up? If so, what are we going to drive for improvement? How are we going to succeed in preventing this from happening in the future? Goes back to training, food safety culture. During pre-op inspections, are we talking to the employees about changeover procedures? Are we training them about food safety? So all those things, again, go back to senior management commitment. And here we have a illustrated trend in major nonconformities over the last recent audit cycles since 2022 for BRC. And this can go for all the standards as well. We often see spikes in majors around times of change. Now majors wasn't very common, back before 2020. Now, with the whole Global Food Safety Initiative, auditors are getting a lot more stricter in what they're seeing because of the high risk of recalls that are happening lately. So in 2022, we only had 2 per 100 audits. That's pretty low. But going into 2023, 2024, 2025, it did spike up to 3, 4, 6, and then we're forecasting 7 and up. So again, going back to your internal audits, your management reviews, training, food safety culture, we can prevent these major nonconformities from happening. Again, new products, leadership changeover, turnover. Sometimes I've come across situations this year where there's a brand new leadership and they don't know anything about food safety management systems. And when that happens, then we have a big gap in our systems. So definitely want to make sure that the whole team knows food safety management systems according to their standard. The key takeaway is that trend analysis must drive action. When you see the curve going up, we want it to go down. It should trigger, a deeper root cause analysis, the 5 why methods. Why did this happen? Stronger CAPAs. We want to use visuals to brief management to keep food safety risk on the radar. So definitely want to have a strong food safety culture in place. So some of the nonconformity issues we're seeing with FSSC and BRC, and this is based off of my experience and just from trends that we're seeing across the Americas. Limited engagement, weak communication. When you're talking to the employees, again, pre-shift meetings, you want to talk to them about food safety. Also, do you have postings in the break room about food safety? Are we engaging with our employees? Do we know who they are? From a senior management commitment point of view, are we talking to the employees daily? Do they know who you are? Do they feel empowered to talk to you when something is wrong? Do they feel confident? Again, that goes back to culture, training, and engagement. So repeat NCs we're seeing are allergen and labeling, gaps in artwork, label verification, changeover practices, rework management. That's a big one. I did come across a site, I'm not sure if it was FSSC or BRC. They had rework programs in place. They were doing rework that day, and I didn't see any rework records. How are we going to trace back that rework materials that they used in that product? So that was a nonconformity. PRPs, environmental monitoring, cleaning validation. How are we cleaning our product? How are we cleaning our equipment? Are we using ATP swabs? Do we have a strong scientific cleaning validation program in place? Are we doing pre-op and post-op inspections? Are we verifying that it was cleaned? Again, cleaning validation is extremely important. So for these 2 standards, they do require that, and a strong emphasis on cleaning, zoning disciplines for environmental monitoring. We have zones 1, 2, 3, 4, usually. If we have a positive during environmental monitoring, are we vectoring that out? What are we doing to prevent that from happening? Are we having meetings? Are we cleaning more robustly? All those things tie back into your food safety management system. Are your environmental monitoring results being tracked and trended? How are we trending that? And if you have sister site, supplier multi-site controls, are they all aligned the same? Are we all treating each site the same? Do they have robust food safety management systems? I've come across multi-site facilities, and one site has a way stronger food safety management system than the other one. And I just don't understand that from an auditor's point of view. Definitely want to make sure they're all treated the same, all aligned the same, and all have the same importance. If you recognize any of these, that's where your internal audit should be focused on in 2026. All right. So FSSC versus BRC, again, we're trending pretty similar across both standards. Food safety culture, allergens, hygiene, supplier approval program, food defense, food fraud, have all about the same amount of nonconformities. Again, going back to senior management, food safety culture, you want to use this in all the multi-scheme organizations, whether it's BRC, FSSC, SQF. They all have the same principle behind it when it comes to food safety and quality. It's just a different terminology. And you can harmonize root cause analysis, your CAPA processes, instead of treating each standard as a separate world. Again, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're protecting the public. And how are we doing that? By having strong, robust food safety management systems in place and having a strong management team who takes very high importance of it. Instead of the bottom line, I've seen that so many times. They're just worried about the numbers, but you definitely want to make sure you're focusing on food safety because that always comes first. And of course, safety of employees was always number one, and then food safety. All right, I'll send it over to Pravina Manukuru. She's going to talk about SQF.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Candice. Thank you, Susan and Renata, for having me as one of the speakers today and for organizing this webinar. Here is a little bit about myself. I've been working in food safety and quality for about 20 years across different sectors and roles. I am a registered SQF auditor and have performed several audits on behalf of TUSUD over the past year. I also serve as FSQ director at Aegis Foods. I own a consulting firm, Sentinus, where I support companies with practical risk-based food safety systems. Overall, my passion is making food safety understandable, realistic, and operational. That's helping teams implement systems that truly work on the production floor. Excuse me. I know many SQF sites are eager to hear about Edition 10. It has been announced, but the updates are still in the proposal stage and are under GFSI review. So nothing is official until the code is published. SQFI mentioned on their website that the release is still undetermined at this time, but it is expected early next year, depending on the GFSI review schedule. After the publication of the code, SQF will set a cutoff date, and any audits after that point will automatically shift to Edition 10. Most sites will still be audited to Edition 9 through much of 2026, but it's smart to begin preparing soon, especially if your site falls soon after the implementation date. As Candice mentioned, SQFI is strengthening how audits are being performed, especially driven by the updates coming through GFSI. So today, instead of focusing on the proposed changes, I want to take a 360-degree look at a few essential elements. Strengthening these core areas now will keep your site solid and audit ready, regardless of what Edition 10 brings in, especially around the programs that we are going to discuss today. So here's what we'll be covering today in my session. We are going to focus on practical implementation strategies for key SQF programs and that strengthen food safety on the floor. We will then walk through 4 key areas. Those are food safety culture, hygienic design and layout, environmental monitoring program, and we will also talk about data collection and analysis. Each of these programs, they play a major role in audit readiness and overall food safety performance. Here, before we dive deep into those key topics, I want to highlight a few core implementation strategies that apply to every SQF program. First, gain a solid understanding of SQF code. Really read your code. I can't emphasize this enough. Both as an auditor and as a consultant, I have seen sites prepare to programs without fully knowing the requirements of the module they are being audited against. So make sure your applicable modules are read, understood, and used. Second, make sure your staff receives applicable training. At a minimum, your SQF practitioner and backup are well-trained and confident in both code as well as its on-floor application. Then keep your documentation clear, current, and complete for all the food safety and quality programs, especially if your site is also getting audited against the quality code. Last, but definitely not the least, review and update your programs regularly, at least annually or whenever changes occur. And with the edition 10 on the horizon, this becomes even more important. SQFI has emphasized that edition 10 is more than an update. It's a shift in how food safety is led day to day. With that groundwork in place, let's begin with our first topic, food safety culture. Again, before we dive into the details of food safety culture, I would like to get a sense of your perspective on food safety culture. So here we have a quick polling question for you all. So which of the following best reflects the elements of a strong food safety culture? You are seeing the options on your screen. There are 4 options. Please pick the one that you feel best represents the food safety culture. Please take a moment to vote. I will pause here for a moment for your votes. I see that some of the polls are coming. Please keep voting if you haven't already. Alrighty, we'll give a few more seconds here before we find out the answers. All right, that's great. Thanks for voting. Everyone who voted picked D, all the above. That's really great. You're right. Food safety culture is not just one action. It's a combination of leadership, employee engagement, training, recognition, and consistent behaviors across the organization. Thank you all for voting. With that in mind, I also would like to dive into some more practical strategies for building the food safety culture on floor. I see that you already know these key elements very well, the topics we are going to discuss today, but our goal today is to reinforce their importance and explore where the gaps can still occur. So here we'd like to talk about the practical ways to strengthen your food safety culture. First, assess your current culture through employee interviews or surveys on system trends to see what's working and what's not working for your facility. Next, identify your gaps. Look at your resources, your training, your leadership involvement and communication, etc. This helps you know exactly what to improve and where to improve. Finally, take actions. Document your food safety culture plan. Food safety culture is no longer will be a soft spoken element at the food facilities anymore, especially with the new edition coming in. Once you document your food safety culture plan, launch initiatives like town halls, recognition programs, or even targeted training. When all these pieces work together, you get stronger compliance, lower risk, and audit readiness. Next, let's talk about hygienic design and layout. The goal here is to build food safety before problems occur. So we'll start with preventive design. Think about your equipment placement, your product and people flow, and your sanitation access, etc. Even small design choices like sloped surfaces and proper spacing reduces contamination risks. Your zoning and segregation are key. So keep your raws and ready to eat separate. Use barriers, use color-coded zones, and dedicated tools, even if full separation is not possible. Make sure all your food contact surfaces are safe and easy to clean. Stainless steel is ideal, very practical, but there are several other materials that are non-porous and food safe. Always review your food safety plan, always, before installing or modifying equipment to avoid introducing any new hazards into your facility or to your process. Finally, tie it all together with a strong change management process. When equipment is added, modified, or moved, evaluate your hygienic design impacts, document your risks, and address gaps before the release of that equipment to the production use. A robust process keeps surprises out of your production and ensures your facility is in control. Our next topic for today is Environmental Monitoring Program, or EMP. The key with EMP is that it should always be risk-based. SQF does not ask you to follow any specific template. It's your program. Your program must reflect your facility, your products, and your specific hazards. So start by analyzing your site, your process steps, your raw materials, traffic patterns, and the relevant organisms. These could be pathogens or indicator organisms or both, depending on your risks. From that assessment, document your decisions. Even if you don't need a full EMP, show your risk analysis and justification for that decision. From there, next, we define the swabbing plan, which organisms are indicators to monitor and what locations to look for these organisms and the frequencies. Not every location needs to be swabbed every time, so we rotate locations to ensure complete coverage over time. Record your EMP results. The real value comes from the data. Trend your data to adjust your frequencies of swabbing. You can spot emerging issues from the data, and you can improve sanitation practices based on what your data trends. Treat your positives as opportunities. Act on finding through CAPA to keep your program effective. A strong EMP is not just a compliance, it is an early warning system that protects your facility before the problems can escalate. After EMP, it's the right time to talk about data. So our last key program for today is data collection and analysis. Data is more than the numbers. It guides our decisions. So start by collecting the right information, such as your near misses, your quality or food safety holds, your food safety incidents at the facility, and your EMP results, etc. When we consistently collect this information and track this information, patterns begin to show. We can spot issues early, long before they turn into deviations or even recalls. The small signals in our data, they often reveal bigger problems brewing behind the scenes. Again, we don't need complex systems for these. Spreadsheets, matrices, or heat maps can show trends clearly. Once trends appear, we shift from reacting to prevention. Identify your leading indicators to spot risks early so we can stay ahead of the issues. Finally, use the insights to drive corrective actions, your preventative measures, and continuous improvement. Again, collect the data, spot trends, and act before problems grow. When used well, data is one of your strongest food safety tools. Here, moving on from the key programs, I also want to share some observations from my SQF audits over the data over past 12 months, what I have been seeing on floor. This is based on my experience. One of the most common issues is gaps in food safety plans. Especially sites often forget to include service inputs and outputs, like water, waste handling, compressed air, or rework. If these are not in process flow, they do not get evaluated in hazard analysis, which becomes a non-conformance. And another frequent finding is contract service providers. Many sites, they miss to list the certification body, which is essential to audit oversight. It is a very simple fix. It's just a documentation part of it that they'll be missing. Again, very simple fix. Then facility integrity issues are also very common. Floor cracks, pits, broken tiles. These create harborage points and sanitation risks. They're often overlooked. So here on the right side of the slide, I have included some audit readiness gaps that I came across. The biggest gap I see is not fully reading or understanding the SQF code. Decisions are often made based on assumptions or past practice rather than looking at the code. Another common issue is missing risk assessment. Again, SQF very rarely tells you how to do something, but if you choose an alternate method or deviate from a typical industry practice, you must show a documented risk assessment identifying gaps and how you address them. In the key elements we discussed earlier, like hygienic design and layout, where full segregation becomes is not possible between the raw and ready-to-eat areas, sites may be using alternative controls. But it is important to assess the risks and document how those controls are working for your facility. The same applies to your EMP as well. If your facility determines a full EMP is not needed, you still need a solid documented risk assessment to support that decision. In SQF or in any of the GFSI schemes, the expectation is not what you do, but why you do it, and the justification must be validated and clearly documented. That's where many sites fall short when they make decisions without documenting the rationale. Right, this slide here is the summary of the key programs we discussed today. TUSUD will be holding more webinars covering additional elements, especially when SQF Edition 10 gets published, supporting sites to transition to those updated requirements. TUSUD Academy provides several food safety related trainings that help sites prepare for the audits. Here on this slide are some of the trainings that TUSUD is offering: SQF system implementation training and PCQI2 training. The QR code provided here on this slide takes you to the TUSUD Academy. So I'm going to leave this for a moment if you are getting your phones to scan the code. And now it's your turn with questions. I am turning this to Susan for question and answers. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Pravina and Candace. Great job today. Thank you for sharing your expertise in food safety management systems in the Americas. So yeah, as Candace, Pravina mentioned, it's time for the Q&A session. Please submit your questions online at the Q&A tab. But in the meantime, we have had questions that have come in from our audience. So let's start with you, Candace. How do I determine which standard, BRC, FSSC, or SQF, is the best fit for my facility?
That's a great question, Susan. You want to pick the standard that your customers want first. If it's a big customer or retailer, BRC, FSSC, or SQF, just choose whatever one you think is best fit for your facility. Usually if you're selling overseas to the UK or Europe, BRC is usually expected. And if you sell mostly in the US and Canada, SQF is very common here in the US. Globally, if you use already ISO 22000, FSSC 22000 often fits best. So it really depends on your customer and what you feel most comfortable with.
Okay, thanks, Candace. All right, let's see. Another question that has come in from our audience. And again, don't forget the Q&A tab for your questions. But here's one, Pravina. Does it provide an advantage to have all 3 certifications, or should we aim to achieve only one of those certifications?
All three certifications, SQF, BRC, and FSSC 22000, all of them are GFSI benchmark certification schemes, meaning they are all recognized at the same global level. Because of that, I don't see a benefit in holding multiple certifications unless a specific customer requires a particular scheme and site wants to go with a different scheme. That's when you can have more than 2 certifications. If not, all 3 of them are recognized at the global level. In most cases, site chooses one scheme that best fits their operations and maintain that single certification.
Okay, thank you, Pravina. All right, here's another question. And again, don't forget the Q&A tab on your screen for your questions. Candace, what is the average timeline to achieve certification for each of the standards, BRC, FSSC, and SQF?
Another great question, Susan. For BRC, FSSC and SQF, the timing is very similar. If you only have minor nonconformities and you're seeing your corrective actions evidence quickly, you can get your certificate within 30 to 45 days after your audit. But if there's more serious situations, more serious, critical, major nonconformities, it can extend to 60 to 75 days. It will require more further technical review, further evidence. So that can definitely take a little longer. But usually it's between 30 to 45 days if you give me your corrective action plans in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you, Candace. Don't forget, we have the Q&A tab on your screen. Submit your question. So here's a question that just came in. Can you provide guidance for someone who is new in the food industry? Candace or Pravina?
Absolutely.
Sure. Oh.
Go ahead, Candace.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can absolutely provide guidance. Whether you want to pick SQF, if you want to go with the GMP annotation audit, or want to hit directly, want to achieve the GFSI level certification, we can definitely provide the guidance.
Okay, thank you, Pravina. And again, don't forget the Q&A tab, submit your question. So Pravina, while we have you on the camera, let's do another question for you. Which of the standards provide a competitive advantage in North American retail or manufacturing sectors?
That's a great question. Again, all 3, SQF, BRC, and FSSC are widely recognized. However, in North America, SQF tends to be more relevant for retail and manufacturing because most of the US retailers and distributors prefer SQF. BRC and FSSC are also recognized, but the choice usually depends on your customer requirements. Again, SQF is widely used in North America.
Okay, thank you, Pravina. All right, here's a question for Candace. Candace, what are the typical nonconformities found with BRC, SQF, and FSSC audits?
Another great question. Usually when I'm out on these sites doing audits, I usually typically see a lot of basic GMP issues, housekeeping, like poor cleaning, damaged, hard to clean equipment, weak pest control program in place, weak allergen controls, label checks, outdated HACCP studies, CCPs are not validated properly. There's so many things that I see that are common on nonconformities along these three standards. But they definitely GMPs, housekeeping, pest control, outdated HACCP studies, training and competence, food safety culture are the common ones I'm seeing right now.
Okay, thank you, Candace. All right, we have another question. And don't forget the Q&A tab on your screen for your questions. Another question that has come in, Pravina, what are the most common pitfalls companies face when implementing a food safety management system for the first time?
When a facility is trying to get into a GFSI level food safety systems for the first time, implementing the systems often fails when training, leadership commitment, and understanding of your applicable food safety code are not aligned. Without a well-trained staff who understands the requirements and without strong leadership driving your food safety culture, even well-documented programs may not be consistently applied, leading to gaps in the compliance and to the increased risk. So in my opinion, this is one of the reasons even the SQF is shifting from viewing a food safety culture as a soft concept to requiring a formal safety culture plan. Again, it's a gaps in understanding your code and leadership commitment is what I see are the common pitfalls.
Okay, thank you, Pravina. All right, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, and it looks like everybody did a great job. Thank you so much, Pravina and Candace, for presenting today. And thank you, everyone, for joining today's session on food safety management systems in the Americas. As a reminder, we are recording today's session, and the recording will be available soon if you or your colleagues missed any portion of today's session. And don't forget to stay on to complete our short survey. This really helps us in planning future sessions, so we appreciate your comments and feedback. And please visit our website, www.tufsud.com, to learn more about food safety management systems, SQF, BRC, and FSSC in the Americas. Again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Candace, Pravina, for a great job today. Have a great day.